Since the inception of the NHS Integrated Care System in July 2022, Cornwall VSF have been working to embed the voluntary community and social enterprise sector into everything they do. We began by designing with the sector how the ICS grant should be spent. You told us there were 3 key areas. Number 1, that some funding should go into Cornwall VSF's core infrastructure costs to enable us to continue to provide strategic support for the wider sector. Number 2, that some funding should go into an alliance budget, equipping wider VCSE colleagues to come together, identify needs and demand and gaps within our communities, and co-design solutions. And number 3, that funding should go into direct delivery, enabling grant funding to support the vital work that hundreds of VCSE organisations and community groups deliver day in, day out, up and down the county. And it was really important for us to enable funding to go both into place-based delivery and specialist delivery. We've done that via our Health Improvement Grant.
The main alliance that formed initially was actually something called the Voluntary Emergency Response Alliance, which was formed during COVID, and it brought together CEOs of a mixture of voluntary, community and social enterprise sector organisations to respond to the emergency crisis of the COVID pandemic, and really just try and look at how they could interlink with public health, Cornwall Council, the National Health Service, and really try and create the best impact for communities that they serve. And that has now become something that's called the Strategic Alliance. But out of that came the need for us focusing on key topics, and that really led to there being what we call thematic alliances, which really bring together groups of organisations around key topics. So it might be mental health, it could be children, young people and families, housing and homelessness. We have a whole range of thematic alliances.
The object is basically to bring all these people together with all of their expertise, their experience, the different ways that they work, the different communities that they work with underneath that theme, and for them to share that experience and those insights and essentially build those relationships so that across the sector we're working better together and we can unify our voice.
I think the Alliance is really beneficial for the organisations that are members for a number of reasons. Partly, I guess, because they are organisations that might tend to be slightly smaller, may not have the same degree of resources as a large organisation would have, often tackling similar issues in slightly different geographies because of the way some of these organisations will tend to exist. That's not true for all, but there is some of that. So it then helps if we can bring people together so they can share those experiences, talk about solutions, try to reduce duplication and just spark off good ideas and things like that as well. And sometimes just to talk about and share some of the bigger challenges that we're facing so that we know we're not alone.
The Children, Young People and Families Alliance is essentially focused on ensuring children and young people across Cornwall have the best possible life they can, whether that relates to their health or well-being or access to career opportunities, activities. We recognise that children are going to be future adults, so they're worth investing in, but also seeing them as having their own intrinsic value as part of our communities. I think that's a belief that across our alliance we share.
There have been so many different pieces of work that we've been able to do so far, even in the short few years that we've been meeting. We have made a film that we've shared with decision makers across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, where we're saying this is what the whole system needs to be like. So we've been influencing how people think about children and put children into all their policy decision kind of making things. We've created a Children's Safeguarding Forum within our alliance where we can all network and really reflect on our practice as safeguarding practitioners within our sector.
We've seen that the Housing and Homeless Alliance has been able to take forward some areas of work or to kind of link up people doing various things where there's a clear impact on the health and well-being of people who are experiencing homelessness in some sort of way. People who are in the homelessness system or at risk of becoming homeless have very significant adverse mental and physical health impacts from that experience. So it's a really important area for the Alliance. So we have some good link-ups between the Alliance and between the public health team at the Council, and also cross-pollination between our Alliance and some of the other alliances as well. To give one recent example, we had a request come in from the public health team at the Council around campaigns around quality of sleep. One of the members of the Alliance from Wild Young Parents, that was an area of particular interest for him. So they've now been teaming up to look at some of the work they're doing in Newquay around the quality of sleep for people in this area. So a clear example of potentially where, if the Alliance didn't exist, that conversation wouldn't have happened, and work that will then hopefully address some of these issues wouldn't then be taken forward.
There's a lot of small organisations really can't come to lots of extra meetings. They haven't got the capacity to cover that. So having a bit of a budget means that we can hire a venue, we can provide a nice bit of cake for everyone so they can enjoy networking with each other, but it also means that they're not losing out by coming to our Alliance. And that's really important, because we don't just want the bigger players here, we want all the small organisations that are really reaching the communities that often other people don't reach. We want them as part of our Alliance.
A good example of how having budgets for our alliances has really helped has come out of what we call the Cornwall Food Access Alliance, which actually is made up of people like food banks, food larders, community fridges, local growing schemes and support organisations responding to the emergency food need of residents in Cornwall. And we actually looked at a really big campaign around Challenge Poverty Week, which was trying to raise awareness and promote support for the challenges that people have living in the county, particularly around the cost of living crisis and how those are multiple layers of issue. So the budget actually allowed us to come together with a cooperative group of Cornwall Independent Poverty Forum, Newquay Food Bank, Truro Food Bank, ourselves and also Cornwall Council Public Health, and really come together to organise a collaborative event that was at St Michael's Church in Newquay. We actually delivered a really quite large scale project. So that needed money for catering and refreshments, it supported technology and the filming of your event, but importantly it just allowed us to come together with a relatively small amount of money to actually achieve a really big outcome.
Looking forward, for the next few months, we're going to be focusing on the health of children, young people and their families, physical and mental health, and make sure that the health system around us is really putting children first and remembering that they are our future for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, and so we need to give them the best start they possibly can have.
What's really interesting about the Community Hubs network is each member does completely different things. So we will have a range of activities going on, from sort of physical wellbeing activities, so that could be your Zumba classes, to your walking groups, to education, adult education, lifelong learning type opportunities. It could be digital inclusion classes, men's sheds. It's such a tremendous range of things that go on out there in the community. So there's something for everybody. The purpose of the Community Hubs evaluation was to look at how our Community Hubs network and the members within help to improve and maintain the well-being of community members, but linked to how, by improving or maintaining their well-being, this kept people well, kept them out of their local GP surgeries or prevented hospital stays. What we did find over the course of the evaluation, which took part between November 22 to March 23, was over 11,000 different interactions that happened in just that small section of the wider hub network, was that people overwhelmingly felt more supported, had improved well-being, felt that their needs were met by their local community hub.
Now, an army of volunteers is helping keep people out of the health system across Cornwall.
Support services in 50 community hubs across the Duchy, as well as many outreach groups, are changing people's lives. Jackie Bird has been to Weybridge to meet some of them.
For Rosemary, Fred, Moira and Andrea, this group has become a lifeline. They're part of the COPD Breathers Club, who meet every week at the Betjeman Centre at Weybridge. It's usually a gentle exercise class. Today they're working off those exercises with their Christmas lunch. But it is so much more than just a club.
Everyone's friendly. I never used to go out at all before, and now I look forward to Thursdays.
You're seeing like-minded people who are suffering the same situations that you're going through, and it makes a hell of a difference.
But we've all gained, haven't we? But until this group was formed, there was nothing more than the surgery.
And they're not the only ones who come here. Another group, Cuppa Companions, were treated to a sing-song from some local nursery children while the breathers had their lunch. And there was a sewing group going on too. And these community groups bring people in who need help and advice, which all of the staff and volunteers are more than happy to offer. It's these type of services that are taking some of the strain from the NHS as the winter begins to bite.
Any activities that keep people well and safe in their own communities is really good for people's well-being, whether that's bringing people together for social reasons or whether it's a single place people can get access to information, advice. But obviously getting together and being part of a community is really good for people's well-being.
Concern Weybridge manager Emma knows firsthand the difference this centre makes.
Yesterday, a gentleman came into the centre and was so incredibly nervous. As we talked for a good half an hour. As he left, he sang me a song, and when we walked outside, he went to shake my hand, and I asked his permission if instead I could give him a hug, and he said I was the first person to have touched him since his wife passed away, and honestly, it broke me. It was amazing, and that's what we do here.
The Health Improvement Fund was part of the broader NHS Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Integrated Care Board funding that is managed and led by Voluntary Sector Forum in Cornwall. And the main aim of the fund was to strengthen and enhance our wonderful voluntary sector organisations who deliver vital services to improve health inequalities for our people in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. We distributed from the Health Improvement Fund 68 grants and spent total available £645,000, and the amount of grants that we distributed ranged from £1,000 to £25,000. The successful applicants, they predicted close to 30,000 beneficiaries across Cornwall, and more than half of these beneficiaries are from deprived areas, disadvantaged areas. It was very exciting to see a fantastic range of applications. We were very impressed by the quality of the applications, and we are very sorry that we were not able to support all the applicants. I was very pleased to see an application from Cornwall Pride to support mental health and the well-being outcomes for the LGBTQ+ community. And we are always excited to see new applicants. And one of them was Arts Well project, a CIC from Penryn, that will deliver a wide range of projects across Cornwall to reduce loneliness and improve the well-being of their participants. One of the key learnings was a demand for health and well-being funding. We received more than 100 applications asking for a total of £1.4 million.
This is just some of the amazing work our VCSE sector is doing to support people and communities. By working together, we can do even more.